I was stopped at a red light on my way to the grocery store when my phone vibrated. The message from my daughter, Rachel, was short, "Goodbye. Everything's in the trash." Before I could process the words, a photo arrived from my son-in-law, Kevin. It showed my belongings, clothes, boxes, a familiar-looking photo album tossed carelessly into the large garbage bin at the end of my driveway. I didn't panic. I didn't cry. Instead, I smiled, unlocked my phone, and sent the 36-second video I'd prepared. My name is Deborah Ross. I'm a 64-year-old widow, and until that morning, I shared my home with my daughter and her husband. When my husband passed away 5 years ago, the 4-bedroom house felt terribly empty. I managed fine on my own, keeping a quiet routine tending to the garden and reading on the porch. Then about 8 months ago, Rachel called. She sounded exhausted. Rent in their building had skyrocketed, and they were trying to save for a down payment. They needed a place to stay. Without hesitation, I offered them the spare bedrooms. I thought we would share meals, watch television together, and rebuild the closeness we had lost over the years. I wanted to help my family. The first few weeks were pleasant enough. Kevin mowed the lawn without asking, and Rachel helped with the cooking. I felt a renewed sense of warmth in the house. But slowly, the atmosphere shifted. It wasn't a sudden explosion of disrespect, but rather a quiet, creeping entitlement that seeped into the walls of my own home. They stopped asking for permission and started making decisions. Looking back, I should have drawn the line the moment they moved my husband's favorite armchair to the garage. But I stayed quiet, wanting to keep the peace. That silence gave them the illusion that I was weak. They mistook my patience for surrender. They had no idea who they were dealing with. The shift in our household dynamic happened in small, calculated steps. Rachel and Kevin stopped being guests and started acting like landlords. They complained about the house being cluttered. My antique side tables disappeared, replaced by modern minimalist pieces Kevin bought online. "It just looks cleaner," Mom Rachel casually mentioned while tossing my decorative pillows into a donation bag. I didn't argue. I simply watched them. The real test came during their 3rd month. Kevin stood in the kitchen rubbing his neck, complaining about the mattress in the guest room. Rachel poured her coffee and looked at me. "Mom, you know it makes more sense for us to take the master bedroom downstairs. It's huge, and we have so much stuff. You'd be much cozier in the upstairs room." The upstairs room was a third the size of my bedroom. It was where I kept my sewing machine and winter coats. I looked at my daughter. She didn't phrase it as a question. It was an expectation. "I suppose I can pack my things this weekend," I replied, smoothly. Rachel beamed. "Thanks, Mom. You're the best." I moved upstairs. I didn't shed a tear or throw a fit. Fighting over a room wouldn't solve the underlying issue. The problem wasn't where I slept. It was how they viewed me. I had become a supporting character in their lives, merely providing the stage for their comfort. I began paying closer attention to their habits. They ordered expensive takeout 4 nights a week. Packages arrived daily: shoes, gadgets, clothes. Yet they never once offered to contribute to the utility bills or property taxes. They were living entirely rent-free while living a lifestyle I could never afford. My quiet observation became my best tool. I noted their routines, their assumptions, and their blind spots. They assumed that because I was older and quiet, I was oblivious. They were terribly mistaken. When Rachel first moved in, I gave her a secondary credit card linked to my account. Just for household groceries and emergency supplies, I had explained. For a while, the charges were normal supermarket runs, cleaning supplies. But after to the upstairs bedroom, the nature of the charges began to change. I sat at my small desk, reviewing my monthly statement. Mixed in with the grocery bills was a charge for $450 at a high-end salon and another for $300 at a designer boutique. There was also a recurring charge for a premium subscription. I picked up my pen and circled the amounts. I didn't march downstairs and demand an explanation. Shouting matches only create noise, not solutions. Instead, I picked up my phone and called the bank. I calmly requested to remove Rachel as an authorized user and cancel that specific card. The customer service representative processed it within minutes. The next evening, Rachel stormed through the front door, her face flushed with anger. "Mom, my card declined at the grocery store. It was so embarrassing." The cashier looked at me like I was a criminal. I looked up from my book, keeping my voice perfectly level. "The grocery budget was exhausted. The card is canceled." Rachel blinked, stunned. "Canceled. But how am I supposed to buy things for the house with your own money?" I answered. Kevin walked in, dropping his gym bag on the floor. "Is there a problem?" "She cut off the card." Rachel snapped. Kevin sighed heavily, looking at me with absolute disappointment. "Come on, Deborah. We're trying to save money. You don't need to be selfish." I smiled politely. "I'm glad we understand each other. Dinner is at 7 if you're cooking." I walked back upstairs, leaving them standing in the hallway. That was the moment I realized they didn't see me as family anymore. To them, I was just a convenient ATM. The canceled credit card created a permanent frost in the house. Rachel stopped greeting me in the mornings. Kevin muttered under his breath whenever I walked into the kitchen. I didn't care. I refused to let their bad moods dictate my day. I maintained my routine completely unbothered by their childish silent treatment. 2 weeks later, Rachel decided to host a dinner party for Kevin's colleagues. She spent the entire Saturday cleaning the downstairs, loudly complaining about how much work it was. Around 4 in the afternoon, I came downstairs to grab an apple. Rachel blocked the refrigerator. "Mom, Kevin's boss is coming tonight. It's a really important dinner for his promotion." "That's nice," I replied, reaching past her for my apple. "Right. So maybe you could just stay upstairs tonight. We need the space, and it might be awkward if you're just hovering around." She didn't even look me in the eye when she said it. She was erasing me from my own home. I took a bite of my apple, chewing slowly. "Of course, Rachel. I'll stay out of your way." She sighed with relief. "Thanks. You really don't understand how stressful his job is." I went back to my small upstairs room and closed the door. I could hear them downstairs laughing, playing jazz music, pouring wine they had bought with their own money. I didn't feel sad. I felt liberated. Their complete lack of respect severed the last emotional string tying me to this living arrangement. While they clinked glasses and entertained guests below, I pulled a notebook from my drawer. I started making a list. Financial accounts, important documents, heirlooms, furniture. I mapped out a timeline. If they wanted the house to themselves, they were going to get exactly that. But it would happen on my terms, not theirs. My plan required absolute discretion. I couldn't afford to tip my hand while I lived under the same roof. A few days after their dinner party, I left the house early, telling Rachel I was volunteering at the library. Instead, I drove across town to a beautiful, quiet neighborhood near the lake. I had an appointment with a leasing agent. The apartment was on the second floor, bathed in natural light, with gleaming hardwood floors and a balcony overlooking a small park. It was perfect. It was everything my current house used to be before it was taken over by resentment. "I'll take it," I told the agent, signing the paperwork and handing over a cashier's check for the deposit and first month's rent. I had my own keys by noon. Over the next 2 weeks, I became a ghost in my own house. I began moving my life out piece by piece. Every time Rachel and Kevin left for work, I loaded my car. I started with the most important things: my husband's watch, the original deed to the house, my jewelry, and decades of family photographs. To fill the empty spaces I was creating in my room, I visited a local thrift store. I bought cheap, bulky sweaters, old shoes, and heavy books. I packed them neatly into cardboard boxes and stacked them in my closet and under the bed. To anyone looking casually, my room appeared full, even cluttered. In reality, my entire world was already neatly arranged in my new apartment. One evening, I sat on the porch, hidden in the shadows. I heard Kevin and Rachel talking through the open kitchen window. "She's hoarding boxes upstairs," Kevin complained. "I want that room for a home gym. We just need to clear her stuff out. Once it's gone, she'll realize it's time to find an assisted living place. I'll handle it this weekend," Rachel promised. I smiled in the dark. Knowing their plan gave me the ultimate advantage. They thought they were outsmarting an old woman. They had no idea they were simply following a script I had already written. The next morning, I made a very important phone call to a property management firm I had researched thoroughly. I met with a representative named Sarah at a coffee shop. I handed her a copy of the deed to my house and signed a comprehensive management agreement. "I am vacating the property entirely," I explained calmly. "My daughter and her husband are currently occupying the home. Starting the 1st of next month, I want them treated as standard month-to-month tenants." Sarah reviewed the paperwork. "Understood. We will determine the fair market value for rent in that neighborhood and issue a formal lease agreement. If they choose not to sign or fail to pay, we will handle the eviction process." "Market rent is fine," I replied. "And I am transferring all utility accounts out of my name as of this Saturday." Everything was locked into place. I had successfully detached my financial liability from the house without confronting Rachel or Kevin directly. I didn't need to argue with them about respect or boundaries. The property management company would enforce the boundaries for me. I spent my final evening in the house quietly. Rachel was watching television downstairs. Kevin was loudly playing a video game. Neither of them looked up when I walked through the living room to grab a glass of water. They were so comfortable in their arrogance. Back in my room, I set up my phone on a small tripod I had purchased. I sat in a chair making sure the background clearly showed my new apartment walls. I hit record. I spoke clearly and calmly, detailing exactly what I had done and what was about to happen. The video was exactly 36 seconds long. I saved it to my phone, ready for the morning. Saturday morning arrived with a cool, crisp breeze. I woke up early, dressed nicely, and carried my final small suitcase down the stairs. Rachel was in the kitchen, sipping coffee and scrolling through her phone. She barely glanced at me. "Going somewhere?" she asked, her tone entirely disinterested. "Just heading out to the grocery store, then running a few errands," I replied lightly. I left my keys to the house on the kitchen counter, tucked behind the fruit bowl. She didn't notice. "Take your time," Rachel muttered. "Kevin and I are doing a massive spring cleaning today. We're finally clearing out the junk." I paused at the door. "Have a productive day." I walked to my car, loaded my suitcase into the trunk, and drove away from Maplewood Lane for the last time. I didn't feel a pang of sadness or a heavy heart. I felt an incredible, overwhelming sense of relief. I drove straight toward my new neighborhood, stopping only to pick up fresh coffee and a pastry. About 20 minutes into my drive, my phone began to vibrate in the cup holder. I pulled into a supermarket parking lot, put the car in park, and picked up the device. The first message was from Rachel. It was blunt and cruel. "Goodbye. Everything's in the trash." A second later, a photo arrived from Kevin. It showed the large black garbage bin at the end of the driveway. Inside, I could see the cardboard boxes I had filled with thrift store clothes. Sitting right on top was a fake photo album I had bought for $3, meant to look exactly like my real wedding album. They really did it. They thought they had thrown away my life. I sat in the quiet of my car, staring at the screen. I didn't feel anger. I felt complete clarity. I opened the group chat with Rachel and Kevin. I didn't type a long emotional paragraph. I didn't ask them why they were treating me this way. I simply attached the 36-second video I had recorded the night before and hit send. I watched the upload bar turn green. Then I set the phone on the passenger seat and took a bite of my pastry. In the video, I was sitting comfortably in my bright new apartment. I smiled at the camera. Rachel, Kevin. By the time you see this, I have completely moved out. Everything you just threw in the trash was junk I bought at a thrift store. My real valuables have been safe in my new home for a week. Also, I left the house keys on the counter. Starting Monday, a property management company controls the house. Your first month's market rent of $2,500 is due on the 1st. I've also canceled the utilities in my name, so the power and internet will shut off tonight. Good luck. The reaction was instantaneous. My phone screen lit up. A missed call from Rachel, then another, then a call from Kevin. I ignored them all. Text messages started flooding in, appearing rapidly on my screen. Mom, what is this? Property manager. We can't afford $2,500, Mom. The Wi-Fi just went out. Turn it back on right now. The panic in their texts was palpable. The smug confidence they had displayed all morning had completely evaporated. They realized they had thrown out garbage while I had taken away their safety net. I finished my coffee, started the car, and drove the rest of the way to my new apartment. I carried my groceries upstairs, put them away in my pristine kitchen, and turned my phone to silent. Let them panic. The weekend passed with absolute peace in my new condo. I read a book on my balcony, drank tea, and watched people walk their dogs in the park below. My phone, however, remained a war zone of digital desperation. By Sunday evening, I had 42 missed calls. Rachel's text messages had shifted from angry demands to pleading bargains. Mom, please call me back. We didn't mean to throw your stuff out. We were just stressed. Mom, Kevin's freaking out. The property manager emailed us the lease. Please stop this. I didn't reply. Engaging with them would only drag me back into their cycle of manipulation. They didn't regret what they did. They only regretted the consequences. On Monday morning, Sarah from the property management company called me. Good morning, Deborah. I wanted to update you. Your daughter and son-in-law contacted us trying to negotiate the rent. I informed them the price is firm and non-negotiable. They have until Wednesday to sign the lease and pay the deposit, or we will begin the eviction process. Thank you, Sarah. Keep me posted, I replied cheerfully. I didn't need to lift a finger. I had removed myself from the emotional labor of managing two entitled adults. I had reclaimed my assets and my dignity without a single shouting match. I spent the afternoon unpacking the last of my real boxes. I hung up the genuine wedding photos, placed my husband's watch carefully on my nightstand, and organized my jewelry. Every item felt sacred in this new space. No one was going to demand I move to a smaller room. No one was going to complain about my furniture. I was the master of my domain again. Later that evening, Kevin sent one final text. We can't pay this. We're moving out to stay with my parents. I smiled, deleted the message thread, and went back to my book. Rachel and Kevin moved out exactly 2 days before the property manager's deadline. Sarah handled the walkthrough, kept their abandoned junk, and quickly hired a cleaning crew. Within a month, the house on Maplewood Lane was rented to a lovely young family who paid their rent on time and treated the property with respect. The rental income more than covered the lease for my beautiful downtown apartment, leaving me with a comfortable cushion to enjoy my retirement. I joined a local gardening club, started taking morning walks by the lake, and finally began enjoying the quiet life I had earned. It took 6 months for Rachel to reach out again. An email appeared in my inbox on a Tuesday morning. Mom, things are really hard right now. Kevin and I are living in his parents' basement. They charge us rent, and we have zero privacy. I really miss you. Can we get coffee? Maybe you could help us out a little. I stared at the screen for a long time. Part of me, the mother part, felt a brief flicker of sadness, but I quickly remembered the photo of the garbage bin. I remembered the feeling of being erased from my own home. Setting a boundary means holding it even when it's uncomfortable. I typed a short reply. Rachel, I hope you and Kevin find your footing. I am doing well here, but I am not in a position to help you financially. Take care of yourself. I hit send and closed the laptop. I didn't need a tearful reunion or an empty apology. I had chosen peace over performance. Life is too short to spend it shrinking yourself so others can feel big. I walked out onto my balcony, breathing in the fresh air, completely free. And that was the best decision I ever made. Looking back, the biggest lesson I learned wasn't about houses money or even family dynamics. It was about self-worth. For a long time, I thought keeping the peace meant staying quiet and compromising my own comfort. But true peace doesn't come from shrinking yourself to make other people comfortable. Sometimes, the strongest boundary you can set isn't a loud argument or a dramatic fight. It's a quiet, decisive action. You teach people how to treat you by what you tolerate. And the moment I stopped tolerating disrespect, I finally got my life back. If my story resonated with you today, or if you've ever had to make a tough decision to protect your own peace and set hard boundaries, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Share your experiences in the comments below. I read every single one. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more real-life stories about finding strength when you least expect it. Thank you so much for listening, and remember, it is never too late to take back your power. See you in the next video.